Hey everyone, Donta here. There are many artists in the Pokemon TCG, and it's my goal to cover as many as I can, so I can help you, the viewer, determine which one of these fantastic artists can hold the spaces of your binders or the slabs in your room. You might find a new favorite card, or a new favorite artist. Would you look at that? I've hit 500 subscribers. Honestly, I genuinely can't believe this whatsoever. It wasn't really something that I had planned. I really just wanted to make this channel for fun. I didn't really think it would get anywhere, but honestly, I've really enjoyed making content, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my content. I think that it's just something that I really like to do, and I hope you guys like it as much as I do. Pokemon Artist Review is a series that I started around 4 months ago, and this series has been something that I actually hold really near and dear to me. I really enjoy the videos and all of the content that I make regarding this series, and I hope you guys do too. If there's an artist that you'd like to see reviewed next, let me know in the comments below. Welcome to the Pokemon Artist Review. In today's video, we'll be talking about Shinji Kanda. Kanda started illustrating cards in the set Brilliant Stars, released February 25th, 2022, and has illustrated 25 cards, including some of the most sought-after cards of all time in the Pokemon TCG. Shinji Kanda's insane and intricate style is one that people are really drawn to, at least in terms of money, but there is really so much more to their illustrations than just a $sign amount. The criteria for this video will be as follows: intricacy, colors, and shading. For my first point, I want to talk about Shinji Kanda's intricacy, which is the main draw for their cards in my opinion, to the point where you can take any of their 25 cards and really study them to an egregious degree. Take this Behem from Silver Tempest for example. On the surface, you can see the Pokemon with some lighter shading and easy to digest colors, but in the background, that is where the card really gets ridiculous. Let's see here. There are these square-like objects that push further and further into the background, and plants of all shapes and sizes which inhabit the rest of the illustration. On the top right of the card, we see this bright blue glowing radiating moon, which looks astonishingly good, and we also see a bunch of starry dots and actual star formations, which I think is the easiest to see just to the right of the Pokemon featured on the card. It's really impressive how all of it cohesively comes together to make a stunning illustration of a Pokemon that most people probably don't really care about. On the opposite spectrum, we have a card that absolutely everyone loves, and how could you not? It's the Giratina V alternate art from Lost Origin, one of the most stunning modern illustrations of our modern times. For this section, I'll talk about specifically that absolutely ludicrous background and try to pick out as many details as I can. I can see those starry effects in the background as we saw in the Behem illustration sprinkled throughout the card, as well as a few white dots that kind of break up the empty space between the areas. We also have this really gritty, grainy, bluish purple effect that sort of creates a circle around the card, essentially going everywhere where the black and white dots aren't. I noticed many shapes of all kinds of sizes, as well as multicolored triangles on the left side of the card. As well, there are also floating circular objects all around the card, of all kinds of shapes and sizes. I'm not sure if this illustration is supposed to represent or reference something specific, but the intricacy of this card cannot be understated. It really is a work of genuine art. These cards give you a small glimpse of what Konda really has going for them, as they are really fantastic detailed illustrations with deep colors, patterns, and shapes. Next, I wanted to mention Konda's colors, which are featured heavily in all of their cards. Let's take the Magneton Scarlet and Violet promo that we have. This card features this really striking, irradiating yellow color that sort of reverberates throughout the card. Directly behind Magneton itself, we have this deep white color. It goes out to a deeper, almost orangey yellow, and then it shades into a bright and muted yellow color. There isn't just light in the background, but also these sparking electricity patterns that flow all around the Pokemon. There's blue, as well as a whitish yellow lightning that flows all around the Pokemon, with circular blue dots that also bounce out of the illustration. Sonic waves of green and red also burst away from the card, which sort of pierce at the outer areas of the card, which is wild. In the Hypno from Silver Tempest, we have so much to talk about. The floor the Pokemon is running on is green, blue, yellow, pink, purple, and orange. As it waves across the ground, the Pokemon itself casts this really interesting purple starry shadow. The shadow itself has yellow stars inside of it, which is really amazing. The trees in the background are yellow and green, with red flowers blossoming all over them. Even in the background city, we also have green, red, and yellow, which unifies the nature and the industrial aspect of the card really nicely. Also, randomly, there's just a bench and a trash can, sort of colored normally, which I think is pretty interesting. Another thing that I really enjoy about this card is that the neck fluff that Hypno has is purple, which I really enjoy. Finally, I would really like to point out Shinji Kanda's shading. Something really cool about Kanda's shading is that it feels really sketchy. So, in an illustration like the Bronzong from Astral Radiance, we have this sketchy and rough shading on the Pokemon, with hints of yellow and white, and a nice white outline. The The Pokemon's eyes glow red, which is a nice juxtaposition to the actual Pokemon itself, which feels nice and rough. All of that scratchy shading really contrasts nicely with that abstract and sort of flowy background. It nicely differentiates the Pokemon from the background, which is something that I really appreciate. In the Blitzel from Paradox Rift, the Pokemon is also scratchily shaded, with hints of yellow once again, which radiates from its head. It's actually really cool to see that its head bolt is green, which is something that I don't think we usually really see. I like the way the Pokemon's entirety looks scratchy, even its white legs have little scratches of black as well. I also appreciate the white outline around the Pokemon's head bolt, which looks really good as well. Obviously, we also have really nicely detailed effects on the building to the right of the Pokemon. It's scratchy as well, and so are the fences around the Pokemon. I think that this card is a really good example of Konda's intricate shading. Now, let me talk about my top 5 favorite cards from Shinji Kanda. In no particular order, here we go. One of my favorite illustrations by Shinji Kanda is the Sharpedo from Temporal Forces. The orangey clouds that part around the Pokemon as it breaches from the ocean, with that incredibly detailed green moon that looms over the illustration, is fantastic. I love how effective and detailed the Pokemon looks. Those stars and many moons in the background look fantastic, and I've always loved this illustration since day one. Next, we have that Giratina V from Lost Origin. The amazing detail all over the card is just wonderful. I went into depth on how nice the card is, but the gold on the Pokemon glistens, and the shadowy tendrils that are like wings on the Pokemon are deep and ashy, which just looks amazing. Everything about this card is really praiseworthy, and I can see why the card is so well loved. Now, I have the Spiritomb from Space Time Smackdown. This card is from the Pokemon Pocket mobile game, and I absolutely adore this card. The way the Pokemon bursts out of the odd keystone is wonderful. It looks so mischievous and conniving. The purple energy that bursts out of the Pokemon swirls around, and the trees of the card are also so nicely detailed, considering that there are just so many of them. This card is a reference to the Diamond and Pearl games, which is something that I always appreciated in any illustration, honestly, which would be like a reference to a game or something like that. This card is definitely a 10 out of 10. Next, I had the Absol from Paradox Rift. I really love this sort of tribal feel to the card, with that nice muted yellow mustard outline around the Pokemon, which really brings out all those dormant details about this card that I really adore. I think the pose is fantastic, with its claw glistening sharply. The trees forming around the Pokemon are also nicely done. Falling leaves give this card some nice movement, and I think that this card just makes Absol look so cool. Finally, I have the Magneton Scarlet and Violet promo. This card is amazing. I really love all the lightning effects on this card, and those glistening spiky balls all around the card also give it some nice depth. There's this effect that I forgot to mention when I was reviewing the card individually, but there are also these electrical spatial rends on the card, which have this really striking black and yellow combination, all surrounded by a white outline, which adds even more to the glamour of the card. And that was Shinji Kanda. Shinji Kanda is a titan in the modern TCG. People love their cards, as do I, and you probably love their cards. No wonder they are such a popular artist, as their detail and creativity and ingenuity such a unique facet of this artist that I really don't think there's anyone like Shinji Kanda. Also, it just feels right to review Kanda on the 25th episode of the series, seeing how far I've come since the first artist I reviewed, being Tomokazu Komiya. I've heard that the two styles are sort of similar before, which is something that I don't entirely agree with, but it's just a nice coincidence that I've come so far in the series, and I've really enjoyed growing and evolving with you guys, my incredible fans. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by liking and commenting, as well as considering to subscribe to my channel. I cover everything you need to know about Pokemon artists. If you want to see any more of these kinds of videos, I have a playlist on my channel for the Pokemon Artist Review. And with that, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.